on Blue Sky, your more left-wing version of Twitter, folks, when I shared this, the Edinburgh Bookshop, or so they called themselves, came back and said, cool, you've modelled it on the original edition of Dracula, so your design is recognised in Scotland. Thanks. Oh, here we go. I've lost it again. The perils of putting. I'm so modern. I've got the part where I put it on the phone, not the part where I can use it efficiently. So thanks also to Latika Vassal and Harvey, of course, for their comments on early versions of these poems, to Australian poet P.S. Cottier for many enjoyable trans-Tasman discussions about poetry, and to Jeremy Roberts and the members of Hawke's Bay Poetry Live, whose response to hearing a number of the previously unpublished poems in this collection were very encouraging. They were kind of the first audience for a number of these poems. Dracula is a persistent kind of fellow. He emigrated to Aotearoa in my previous poetry collection, New Sea Land, and it occurred to me, when I was thinking about this collection, that he is a pretty good metaphor for the 19th century colonial project, which of course is still very much ongoing. My own family emigrated to Aotearoa in 1961 when I was 2 years old, which arrived in January 62. This collection explores how that shaped my family, but also looks at how Dracula and his spiritual descendants have continued to sink their fangs firmly into our body politic. There's food to eat, there's drinks to drink, there's books to buy. So I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I'm going to read 2 poems from the collection, one from the family side, one from the sarcastic side, and in fact we've heard a little bit of that one already, and also give you a little taste, the barest incision of Dracula's adventure in colonial expropriation. Oh, I also forgot to thank Your Books for the wonderful job they did on the printing. So, this one is perhaps slightly fanciful rendition of my family's journey to this country. It's called, after the famous painting, The Last of England. We weathered the voyage in our miniature apartment. Each storm a new crisis of leaky windows, our stomachs heaving with the unfairness of it all. Whales on the horizon provoked atavistic impulses, but the crew, well trained in message discipline, threw only photographs of harpoons. We weren't just third-class passengers in steerage, we were part of the team. We cheered as the doves whirred away, sat despondent at their empty beach return. No one had told us of Coupe then. No one remarked on clouds frothing up from the southern horizon. A chaos of breakers and gales served as our welcoming party. At long last Wellington, gulls rose to conduct us to our berth of privilege. My father supervised our luggage, eyes narrowed, wise to the ways of stevedores. We left him to it, mother and I, left to find the commissary when new arrivals were made welcome with black pudding, weak tea, beefeater gin. By the time we stocked up, the wind had risen. Bureaucrats chased trilby hats into and out of the ocean, while we staggered back to our temporary quarters. My father reclined with the air of a job well done. What a country, said my mother, summing up the long refrain of her remaining days. And I had a bit of a choice actually. I think all but one of the poems that Harvey mentioned in the session, which have some possibly recognisable figures, I thought of reading. I'm actually going to choose the one about the minister. But for the record, the visionary, the person I referred to as an erection in a suit, is not about our current Prime Minister. Seriously, the person in this poem, should it be a real figure, any lawyers please take note, the person in this poem was accurately described but quite tall. I've been in the same room as Christopher Luxon, not giving him advice, and he's actually surprisingly short. So not about take from that what you will. Okay, so I'm going to give you a poem which is not about anybody in the previous government. Sorry, whoops, not about anybody in the current government. And this title is not sarcastic. This minister genuinely did really care. Sometimes, unfortunately, that's not enough. The minister who really cared. The first thing to say about this minister is that he's sincere, sincerely sincere, so sincere it burns his ears. Is there doubt about his desire to act? There is no doubt. He desires to act, and if only, the cabinet and his caucus colleagues, not that they don't believe there's an issue, he's sure they do, but we have our constituents to bear in mind, and then there are the unions. No, we can't go too far or too fast. But electric cars. Only the other day, Meridian took him for a spin in a new prototype, and it was marvellous. If this minister was a newsreader, he'd be John Campbell. If ifs and ands were pots and pans. If only there weren't an election next year. If the farmers hadn't protested the carbon tax. If Helen Clark hadn't got cold feet. If anyone had had the courage of their convictions. If this meeting wasn't almost over, if the minister who really cared, he truly did, wasn't ushering us out of his office with smiles and handshakes and a joke or two, we might even have got somewhere. And finally, now, getting back to the title poem, it's quite a long poem. So I'm just going to read you, and we've heard a little bit about the final stanza. This is the first stanza. Dracula in the Colonies. We glimpse him in Victorian photos, those imperious features softened by eyeglasses, by a mutton chop moustache. To smile would be to reveal his fangs. He does not smile. To either side, his provincial council colleagues edge away. He's charming, of course, old world. Their wives set quite aflutter by the sophistication of his manner, his anecdotes of courts and queens. But still, one smells a certain nearness of the grave. For surely, though well preserved, he is very old. Exiled for some unspecified matter of state, for reasons that still grieve him, he pines for Europe. Yet here he is, fallen on his feet, secure in his stolen estate, vast and clouded, between braided river and the main divide. Thank you, everyone. And enjoy everything that the evening has to offer. Okay,